Hello.
That's Igor.
Yeah, I was wondering who I'm gonna see on the other side of the screen, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Good
see
morning.
myself.
That's me, and
Yeah.
that's us again.
Yeah. Good morning. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit rainy Saturday in here. I don't know how it's on the other side of the screen.
Not yet rainy. I think it's gonna be, and it's still quite cold. We have cold summer for the summer. I
Mm.
mean, it's like around 20 degrees.
Yeah, but same for us. A bit
Mhm.
not super sunny.
You had a really hot summer, right? So far.
Yeah, they say that it's the hottest summer ever. I don't know. I'm reading some
Hmm.
climate change articles. But
Hmm.
to be honest, it was just 3 weeks of hot weather. I don't know. If
Sure.
this is the hottest, then bring it on. I need more.
Okay. Now we're gonna be banned in YouTube, you know. So let's have some
Oops.
fun maybe for the last video of the
Yeah, no, climate change is, I totally believe in it. Yeah, and it's important.
Okay, now half of our subscribers will go away. So
Ah,
just continue with that intro. I think we're on the right path so far.
okay, we'll cut it afterwards. So where's technology? We're not talking about climate. We're talking about technologies, right? Then the last half is gone.
By the way, yeah, we are
Yeah.
now on a trend, you know, like after renaming Twitter to X, I think we should get official brand from Elon Musk. Like, okay, this is a
Yeah,
product by X by Twitter, X it Twitter. So
totally. And by the way, our logo was designed by Anton Gudim, and recently Elon Musk has posted some illustration from Anton Gudim. So
exactly, there's so
yeah,
many connections. So yeah,
yeah. So
it's like there is no other way than success in our path.
aren't we already successful? Cheers. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And by the way, this new logo, it looks like an espresso logo. Do you know it? It's
uh,
like literally almost the
uh,
same, like this coffee stuff. I don't know who was designing it, but
What is espresso? Oh,
Nespresso.
Nespresso logo.
That's like
Yeah,
small capsules.
I
So it
think
looks
I have
identical.
only bad thoughts about this new logo, so I'm not sure if I can think of it in some good way.
Yeah, it's just fun. So,
Mhm.
but let's see, let's see. But
Mhm.
anyways, yeah, I didn't have Twitter. I don't have X, so I'm okay.
Mhm.
Did it have?
XTechnology has Twitter, so
All right, right, yeah.
I can share my screen actually. Maybe it's a good time
Mm-hmm.
for that.
Yeah, yeah. So while Alex is sharing, I just remember that X Technology is the community of people who love technologies, mostly IT in IT domain. So we're running projects, we're talking about some technologies, we're doing webinars, workshops, meetups. And yeah, you can go to our website, xtechnology.dev, the one that Alex is showing currently. And there are a lot of links to some fun and nice materials. So
Yeah.
please go there. And
And subscribe and share with your grandparents especially, but not
yeah,
only don't limit it to your grandparents, also
yeah,
grandparents.
grandparents are essential. And don't forget to call them.
Yes, that's true. Right, thanks for that intro. I think I can take it from here, and thanks for joining us. So this is our second or third live stream about GraphQL technology. We had previously one night called version, and 2 weeks ago, I think we had an introduction to this project that I'm working on. It's not yet in this list, but let's see how it goes. I will probably add it here as well. But actually, I wanted to open one of the pages for today's stream as well. Probably one about gRPC, and I think this one is most complete. It's also called gRPC. Yeah. So last time I gave a little bit of introduction to GraphQL technology, and I didn't even explain much what I'm trying to do with between GraphQL and gRPC. So let's continue there. I have prepared a little bit of theory, and we can have some practice as well. Maybe I can live code a bit, and I don't know if that any of those will work, but who cares, right? Even if it doesn't work.
The demo guys are on our side, I'm pretty sure.
That's right. Now we are on my VS Code again. Yeah, so last time we explored a bit this project. It's under XTechnology Git repository, by the way. It should be somewhere here. Git remote. -v. I don't know if that's visible. Please let me know otherwise.
It is visible. Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay. So yeah, it's a URL for our repository for this project, GraphQL over gRPC. Yeah, there are many interesting stuff. Igor, let me know if you have any questions, comments, or whatever on the field. I will, because otherwise I will just try to explain everything that I see on the screen. So if you just route me to the right direction when it's needed, of course.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
So far that's something new, right? We didn't have all of this before, or we did? No, I think we did.
Yeah, we explained a little bit of that. I think last time we talked about gRPC server, gRPC client. So basically, what are the gRPC technology? And back to this intro. And then we had an intro to GraphQL server. So that was our last point of introduction here, probably. So we even discussed this data source, and the idea of this data source is that this is exactly how you can combine gRPC microservices into GraphQL schema. Yeah, that's one possible implementation using the Apollo server. So Apollo server helps there a lot with combining this technologies. So Apollo server is one of the best options maybe to run your GraphQL server, and it's not limited to that technology. You can use any other environment that supports it. So GraphQL actually is a specification published by Meta, Facebook company, and yeah, it's not limited to any particular language. It can be implemented by anything, basically. Even run on your front-end code, why not? I mean, who cares again?
There was some condescending in your words.
Yeah, that's right. I'm quite happy that we can do that. So today, what I wanted to continue with today is talk a little more about comparison of GraphQL and the gRPC. I prepared a little bit of document like that, so that we can go. It's really short one, and it has a comparison table here, so maybe it can be useful to start with. And afterwards, excuse me, we gonna try and do other things. Like I wanted to first explore tasks that I'm currently planning for this project, and maybe build something. And I'm gonna explain what exactly we're gonna try to build, but essentially is something generate some schemas from gRPC protobuf definitions, and potentially one very naive implementation of a server that can use this schema. Yeah, that's sort of a plan. And maybe even touch a bit of tests. It's not necessary, of course. It's not something that is demanded by that. But I want to try one of the coolest updates of Node 20, Node.js version 20, which is a test runner. It's very powerful. I tried it a bit, and I think we should use it instead of the common test runners as much as we can. So yeah, why not practice with it a little bit? So yeah, that's the plan. Anything to add so far? All good.
Sounds good. Yeah, let's follow the plan and let's write some tests in the end.
What's your CDD takeaway? Igor, you practice it a lot.
To write tests?
Mm-hmm.
Not really a lot. Yeah, I'm not a software developer. I'm a data scientist, so I write tests if it's like totally essential, which happens not so often. But I would love to do it more.
Nice.
Let's see how it's organized.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's go on with this one so far. So yeah, I just started creating this document. It's it's not much, but just to repeat a little bit of stuff that we learned last time. So this is a quote from official website, GraphQL, whatever. Let me hover it again, graphql.org/learn, very cool resource. So it's a query language for API, and a server-side runtime is actually provided by a community mostly. Like this Apollo server is a one runtime example that can be used for GraphQL servers. But essentially, it's a way for defining schemas, and these schemas define the interface for your application to server-client communication. And you can build a lot of stuff in between this interface. You can basically decide which format you want to communicate with. Like it can be binary format, it can be completely text format. So we are not limited a lot. So query language, it is used for APIs, and it's essentially the type system is one thing that makes a difference with our REST API. For example, the REST APIs that don't have these type systems, we discussed it last time, I believe. So, all right. Let's talk a little about the schema and other features that we have in type system of GraphQL. This is, by the way, the simplest one of the simplest examples of your schema definition, type definition inside the schema. So in here we define type character. It has a name and appears in field inside. Any thoughts what the exclamation mark would mean here, Igor? Any guesses?
Exclamation. It's something stricter than with no exclamation mark.
So, yeah, exactly. It's like arguing already, right? It's like it's screaming.
Yeah, it should be string.
Yeah, it should be string.
Yeah. But yeah, I sneak peeked a bit below, and I see that.
Yeah, exactly. That's my. I always make this mistake, like asking a question.
It's not a mistake. It's
the response right on the screen, but that's fine. So basically it says that it cannot be nullable. It's always a string, and basically that's it. Yeah, it's not like if it would be string that can make it also nullable. Like it can be omitted in the request or response, but in this case, in the response probably. But in here we say that it always has a name, and that this notation is a sort of it has also exclamation marks, but it also has these square brackets, and that means an array. That's a very common notation as well. That's an array of episodes, and each episode is so it's required, right? It cannot be null. However, the array can be empty here, right? We say that it should be an array, but it can be empty. It's just if episode exists, it should not be null. Yeah, I guess that's a restriction in this example.
So an empty error is an existing error. It's okay to have it.
Empty array, I think, is valid according to this notation here. Yeah. Yeah, I have here a scalar date. It's basically a way how you can define your own scalar types. I think scalar, I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. Scalar types is something that exists in GraphQL, and yeah, that's logical. It basically exists in every DSL and domain-specific languages mostly. So we have int, float, whatever, string, boolean, IDs, and we can extend it with dates, for example. We don't have date by default, but we can define, okay, this is gonna be our date. I don't have here an example of how can we restrict it with some specific format, for example, or some validation. I think it's possible with schema definitions, but yeah, I didn't look into that before this session. What else? We have queries. So every schema we define, we can quickly check maybe one of the examples here. Yeah, why not this one? And maybe go to the GraphQL server again. So here we now, I think I had somewhere an example of a GraphQL MD. Sorry, one more attempt. Yeah, like that. This is a clear GraphQL definition here. So we defined a type book, right? And then we said, okay, we're gonna be defining type query. And the query is a system keyword for GraphQL servers. So this defines the entry points for our server, like what exactly a user can request. So in our case, we define books and gRPC books entry points, and that's what user can request from it, from our running server.
Is there a way to define multiple queries?
Yeah, like here, right? Like books and gRPC books, it's multiple entry points. Yeah, it's not. You mean like that, right? Like,
yeah.
Then continue doing something extra
for different entry points.
It's a good one. Yeah, it depends on the runtime library. Yeah, the definition.
Or every element from query can be a different entry point.
Like everything inside here is a different entry point. Like here we have books and gRPC books entry points. But your question maybe was about like, can we define another query here? Syntactically, I'm not sure if that's gonna be a correct one. Like if we do the books two and gRPC books two, for example, here. So these two queries, I'm not sure how it will be interpreted by GraphQL server.
But I see no. So you don't have to, because every separate single line in the query, it's a separate endpoint.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not sure if we need this comma here actually, because yeah, GraphQL syntax is slightly different. It's not a JSON schema, not schema, just JSON, not a JSON object, so you don't have to put like a comma after each field. I think I read this morning something about yeah, it was some specific term for like commas are not required, but still possible. But I'm not sure if that's the correct one. So maybe we can explore it a bit later. So what else? We can define scalar types if we want to have something more than the built-in. We have enums, like we can define that our type is one or the other. One of the set what we defined. Lists required notation. That's all good. What else? Well, type definitions. Scalar, for example, with the scalar keyword, we can define new simple type, and with interface we can define something like complex objects here, like a character interface, and then we have define all the fields, and then our type should implement it. So yeah, it's interfaces is not that clear for me. So maybe it's because like you don't have to in GraphQL you don't have to implement methods, and comparing to OOP, like for example in interfaces, object-oriented programming, I mean, interfaces is something that you define high-level interface, and then your classes should implement this interface. So in this case, types are not really implementing interfaces because they don't have implementation for methods or something like that. But yeah, let's see later.
But just a question from you. So these two things, you kind of have a character
interface defined somewhere. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, defined somewhere, and then you build on top of it two different things.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like always in OOP, it's about abstraction, right? Like you can use in your query, for example, that you want to receive in a character, but you don't know what exactly is going to be the type of character. It can be a human, can be a droid. So yeah, maybe in your particular case, it wouldn't matter. So it's about abstraction, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Unions, like you can define if the requested type is going to be one type or another type. So yeah, you can union different types in one particular definition. And the inputs is something that I think also has a special definition in the GraphQL language. It's like you can define for your mutations or for functions in your schema, you can define a type input. Like I don't have here an example, but there is a slightly difference, like what that this particular type should be an argument of some function, and I think it has some additional restrictions that potentially can help you with a stricter definition of your API. But again, that's not that much matter for us. I think I skipped this mutation. I don't know if we talked about it last time. So here we have a type query, right? And the type query is a system type, and its meaning is for requesting some data, right? We basically put the query's meaning and semantics in there, and it sort of idempotent. Do you know this word, Igor?
I heard it, but I'm not sure what it means.
It means that you can execute it as much times as you want, and it won't modify the state of your data. And there are the get in REST API notation, the get queries, the get requests is a sort of this idempotent request. Like you can do as many as you want, and that doesn't change the state of your server, state of your application. And for example, when you update some data, depending, of course, how you update it, but it can change the state of a server every time, right? Because it's also a very interesting topic. Like you can actually define the update for one resource, right? Like you can say for the resource ID 1, I want to update a field to be, I don't know, 1 to 3. And then, as many times as you run it, your state won't modify since the first time, right? So it's also idempotent in this case. But if it's going to be a creation instead, like you can say, like create a new object. And this request is clearly not idempotent, because every time it will create a new object for your state application.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, it doesn't matter too much. That's sort of the types capabilities. Oh yeah, and I was talking about mutation. So mutation is a different one. So you can also define with a system word something like mutation here, and that would define the queries or requests that can actually modify your application state. So we're not gonna touch the mutations just today, but it's very alike this definition of query that we see here. So yeah, it's really not that difficult to understand what it all is about.
So just to summarize, query is more like get and mutation is post.
Yeah. In short, yes. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What else? We did touch quick, really briefly, resolvers and the context. Maybe in this example, so resolvers is something that is implementation of our queries. So, for example, this is a resolver for books, and this is resolver for gRPC books, which I think is very straightforward. And data sources is well, a context. I think I called here a context. So a context is something that you have defined in your on your server level, and that can bring additional capabilities to your running server, and that would be available in a different pieces, let's say, these different parts of your running server. Yeah, I explained it not too good. So basically, you can have resolver defined in a different file, right? And your server is defined on some top level, and it has context provided in when it starts in a server. Like in here, we provide the context of data sources that brings the gRPC books data source here. And this context means that everywhere where we gonna be using or defining the resolver for our server, we can actually use this context. In here, we're just using the data sources context, and we say, yeah, I want to get books, and our resolver here on the top level is using the same pattern. Doesn't matter again too much so for us, but we can define additional capabilities on the context of our server, and we can use them in defining, implementing these methods. Okay, additional features. Well, it has some something built in. The GraphQL has something built in keywords like schema or underscore type that provides the meta information about the schema. Like you can, in your request, you can put a schema. Do I have it? No, I don't have an example here, but we're gonna see it later on, and that will result in a response of the whole metadata about your schema. Like it will bring back to the client the whole definition of the schema of a running server. I think it's good actually to try it out. So let's see, is it maybe a bit later though. So let's not forget and try to see how it would look like with a schema response. Yeah, what else? So some capabilities for introspection, schema type, I think is for one particular type. You can specify what that you exactly want to get the definition of this type. And the ecosystem is really huge for GraphQL. Like, yeah, you can, I have this graphql.org/code. And then, yeah, if we open that guy, we're gonna see huge tons of libraries that exist for supporting GraphQL. A runtime in different languages, in different environments again. And surprisingly, it doesn't have exactly what I wanted to build in my experiment. So let's see if that still can be useful.
So we need a new library.
Already did, yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's actually switch to my browser quickly. Okay, GraphQL. And I wanted to run my GraphQL server and see this net information, but first let's open these tools. So this is the tools page, and you can see it's really huge, like for every, yeah, not maybe for every language here, but I'm pretty sure that you will find it for your language, what exactly you want. And you see it's divided for each language, for server, client, or other tools, and it's a really enormous ecosystem. So it's good to have it here. All of those plugins or runtimes. For example, Mercurius is a specific server runtime for on top of Fastify library. So you can imagine it has lots of plugins to different frameworks. So Apollo itself is a running server, so it doesn't have to be added to some Express server, for example. I think it uses Express by default inside, but can be used as an Express plugin as well. Express is a framework for APIs in Node.js, right? GraphQL JS is one of the most useful in our case, in our scenario. It's a low-level functionality for GraphQL, like it can parse the GraphQL definition, and it has useful methods like build schema. So basically, compile it to check for the consistency, for integrity, sort of that. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time here, but you can scroll it yourself. It's really huge. It's like so many capabilities here that you can use. Just a lot. And yeah, you see that this is, I'm scrolling now through the client, and there are different clients available. So you can, for your web application front-end part of it, you can import Apollo client, and you can be writing it inside your application. You're going to be using the Apollo client to request your server. So everything that you probably need is already done before. So first have a look at that before you're building something in GraphQL. Tools is like a very different for different purposes. Like you can convert one language to another language. GraphQL code generator, you can see here, support custom plugins templates like TypeScript. So meaning that you can compile your schema and produce something like TypeScript types. I think even the top library that we have here, the GraphQL JS library, this one has support for TypeScript, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, just explore yourself. It's really cool if you playing with GraphQL. And hopefully our experiment will end up here, like and get like 1,000 stars. I think so far it's not like that.
It's just a small step. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's see. Actually, if I push my my markdown now, I can also continue with the browser. 1 second. Update GraphQL nodes and push.
You're of course gonna push it to this GraphQL.org.
Yeah, directly there. And I usually do it with force, so
Yeah, that's how you should do it.
Yeah, that's how you should do that indeed. Yeah. So yeah, this is now in the same that I was showing in VS Code now in a browser, and I was exploring this GraphQL MD markdown file, right? It's also quite.
Could you maybe do it as slightly bigger, the fonts?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so we were saying these tools, right? And I wanted to also check this quickly, this meta information from a schema. So let me start the gRPC server again. From the last time we did this, but we didn't explore it a lot. So I will start it in a second. Start GraphQL server, npm run.
Some magic's happening in the background.
Yeah, I'm not showing it. Don't want to switch between.
Yeah.
I just started it. I showed it last time, and we have this. Yeah, I don't know, GraphQL, if I'm not mistaken, is called the interface for executing your queries, and it's built in with the Apollo server for dev environment. You can just start it and execute the queries. And we can see that the books are still
there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it okay. I'm not sure now. What if I do it like that? And it says it's it's not valid. So, okay. What if I just want to have my whole schema? What it says here, expected name found, okay, books. I don't know how to exactly execute. Maybe can search quickly, schema, GraphQL, example, query, should be somewhere here. So I'm looking for the query, the valid query definition for your schema meta information. Here, schema. It's a little bit harder than, okay. And I thought, okay, mutation type, query type, field name. Okay. So that means probably that we can, okay, let's try that. So we need to define query type. That should be books, maybe? No? Query field books on type schema. Maybe just query type. Okay, that's something built in probably. Yeah. Okay. Right. Fields, name books, name gRPC books. Okay, I think it's readable like that. So we can actually do some introspection into what is supported in our interface here. All right. So because we have on top level of our schema, we have defined books query and gRPC books, and we say that we want to explore query type. Okay. Fields. I want to actually get the more information that that we have. I'm not sure how we can do that. Type name. Okay. Yeah. So for every request, you can actually put the type name, and that will give you the type in your response. Like this is not too much. Let's see. Maybe we have some other examples, cool examples here. Query name. Okay. Query type name as well here. No, okay. So yeah, fine like that. I hope it makes sense so far. So it gives some introspection, a lot of introspection. If you want, you can just query from your GraphQL running server information about particular endpoints that it has. Like in here, we return back all the endpoints from top level. And if we continue structuring our query, we can also check the like properties for the queries, for the functions that have been executed there, and so on. Okay. So now I wanted to quickly compare the gRPC and GraphQL so far, and the REST API. I put these pieces here, like for example, which is a focus on which. We start with the REST API, so REST endpoints focused on resources. That's my opinionate table, so I don't know how accurate it is. And the gRPC and GraphQL are both, I think, focused on actions. Like you define some business logic pieces, like I want to get all the books, I want to get all the currencies, for example.
Sorry, what do you mean by resource for the REST API?
Oh, resource in REST is not specifically in REST, but like everything that you define in your schema in GraphQL, like in here, books is a resource, right? We can one book is a resource. Yeah, it's just it doesn't have a strict definition. It's like a more how you present your API, your application. Okay, yeah. In our application, it provides information about books. So books is a resource.
Okay, got it. So it's more like focused on the objects, and gRPC and GraphQL more on the actions over these objects.
Yeah. And even for gRPC, because it's already in the name, remote procedure calls. So it's about procedures, actually, right? It's not about resource, but about the functions that are defined on top level. Well, in GraphQL, it's sort of in between, because it's in a query, you're already defining what exactly you want to query, and you have information about the particular resources that you query in there. So maybe I would modify it to action and resource or something like that. Semantics, HTTP. So in REST, we clearly just call the HTTP method and URL. And yeah, that defines basically how we can access the entry point. In gRPC and in GraphQL, we do it with programming. So in gRPC, we just call a method that is defined and generated for us. And in GraphQL, it's sort of the same, but we do a query with a GQL format, like in here. And we have to, but yeah, it's again also somewhere in between, somewhere in between REST and gRPC. Format, yeah, in REST is yeah, it's just over HTTP, so you specify the data there, and depending, yeah, it's always gonna be in a plain text, but it can be, it's better if it's encoded, of course, and also with a with HTTPS, it's going to be encrypted, hopefully. Yeah, gRPC is a binary format, so it's already compiled into something when it's transmitted. And in GraphQL, I think by default, and we can see it in here, it's going to be over HTTP, so it doesn't have to be encoded, right? This one, for example, we can see the payload query example. So it's just clearly text format. And yeah, it's something like HTTP on something like REST in that scenario. But with the plugins, we can also make it binary if we want. It's a matter of implementation. But it always is a matter of implementation. We can also build a whole system on REST that does. Yeah, that's transit data with a binary format. It's just that we need to define this manually on our client and our server. Yeah, validation is not built in REST. We have to implement ourselves. In gRPC and GraphQL, we have a strict types definition, so we have to follow the definition of a server that we put. Language agnostic for REST, so we have to use some library when we libraries when we use it for particular environment. For gRPC and GraphQL is also sort of agnostic, but is should be the set tools that are implemented. Otherwise, you have to implement it yourself, of course. So you rely on these toolings support of GraphQL or gRPC in this case.
But I guess for every language there is a library which is built in the basic language.
Yeah, it's very rich ecosystem, so you will find, of course, it for every environment that you want. Same for environments. Yeah. Nothing really big. Maybe for REST is more agnostic because you don't have to implement much, right? For your queries, for example, for your requests, you just do you have to use client for transmitting data with HTTP network layer, and that's it, right? So you don't have to build something on top of that. For gRPC and GraphQL, you need to use a tool that particularly knows this format and how to transmit data in this format. So it's a little more than just REST implementations. For the endpoints, so in REST, again, you have the whole, so let's open some Swagger example, Open API. So that one, but I don't know if it works to open it right now. So I don't know if you probably saw this Swagger. I want to have just one example. Oh yeah, Swagger UI, Swagger editor, maybe one of those. Try Swagger editor. Yeah, so this is defining our REST API endpoints. in a Swagger format. Open API again. So we have multiple endpoints here, right? /pet find by status. Wow, that's a cool query. It's almost an action within. I think yeah, find by text. Okay, yeah, let's look at this one better. Pet and then pet ID. So that defines one entry point for pet by ID, and we have multiple endpoints that define particular methods in our server definition. For GraphQL and for gRPC, it's different. In GraphQL, we have a single entry point, right? And we define what exactly we want to query with a payload of our request. So here we say that we want to execute example query, and we define everything that we want to get from it. In gRPC, yeah, Igor?
So kind of one endpoint, but it can do multiple different things because we specify different queries.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it has the same endpoint, but if you send different payloads, it will return different things.
Yeah, exactly. And in gRPC, it's also one server running, so one address for the server, but you have to execute particular methods. So I call it single entry point, but actually it's hidden beneath the programming context, so you don't use it as an entry point. Yeah, you basically use a methods instead of entry points. So you speak in a different language. You're already using a library that is produced by your server definition, and you can use only the methods of the library. Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
And an interesting one for versioning. So by default, all of them don't have particular advice how to deal with it. It's like it's not built in any of those systems, and they have some sort of best practices to follow, but I think it's always slightly different and it changes. So no standard for that. You can define the best way how your API version migrates yourself. I don't know how good it is. It's best would be better if they have a stricter something stricter. I put on this article if you want to read more or different point of view on the REST GraphQL gRPC comparison. Yeah, it's not a comprehensive comparison, but something in addition to what I just said. Maybe you find it useful too. Thanks, Karan, for the article. Yeah, that's finalized the theory part that I wanted to show today. So let's switch to the VS Code again. Okay, so let's go on with the plan. The plan was to check comparison, done. Yeah, now I wanted to maybe refine a little bit the backlog. It's not big here, but maybe we can start refining one or two things. If that makes sense, like if one of them on those will make sense. But before we do that, one more thing is needed. Is I think to talk about what I'm trying to build. Right. So far we didn't talk much about that. It's like we gave an introduction to the GraphQL specification, the servers, export the servers, export gRPC, and how to combine them all. So the short idea of the project is a plugin for gRPC to be able to generate some GraphQL related GraphQL server related resources that can be used in GraphQL server. Yeah, it's very it's not super straightforward. In practice, that means that I want to have some sort of a GraphQL, the gRPC protoc plugin that can generate GraphQL schemas maybe it can generate some template for resolvers for gRPC. And then it will have not a plugin itself, but maybe in a related library, it will have some kind of implementation for GraphQL server that can use this definition. How it looks like we have this protoc again GraphQL library, and that is indeed a library. So it's published into NPM already. Just because I wanted to have this name nailed, so I reserved this name NPM registry. So now you can install this npm install globally protoc again GraphQL, and then you can use your protoc. This is a tool for your gRPC resources. You can say, hey, I actually want to use a GraphQL plugin for that, and it should generate some useful resources from your gRPC protocol buffer definitions. And actually, it's working sort of. So let me show you that. Do I have it here? Yeah, I have here protoc. And then, the protoc, Igor, do you know what is a protoc?
That's this small program that compiles your definitions of gRPC into gRPC formats.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's what it does. The only thing I think I don't have a vendor here, so I need to install protoc first, and hopefully I have I have it here. So I used protoc 232. I will quickly open it and download it. 232. Okay, 232.
So actually, I meant the other way around, I guess. So at first you specified in the gRPC format language, and then you run this protoc and it creates the language that you're using. Like in your case, it will be JavaScript or TypeScript. Or
no, I think the first time you were right, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, it's indeed for gRPC. For gRPC format, and it takes this proto file, and we can define what we want to get from it. And the protoc tool itself, it has, if I don't specify these plugins, it already will do something for you, but what we built actually is this plugin GraphQL that can convert it to GraphQL. So by default, protoc cannot convert it to GraphQL. It can build, it can produce some, let's say, JavaScript or Java or maybe Golang resources for yourself, but not. Not GraphQL. So what we will build is on top of that, we add a GraphQL plugin that will produce GraphQL useful resources. I just downloaded the protoc 232. I think I can put it to the vendor files. I didn't commit it because it's a vendor, right? So let me try to put it to my vendor package here. Should be inside the vendor. New folder, vendor. Okay. And I will put there. I just downloaded it from the official website for the protocol buffer compiler. So you can see this address here. You can go to releases, download any version. I think there is already 24 version, but 23 is good enough, let's say, for now. So we have vendor, we have a bean here, and we have the protoc. Let's see if I can actually execute it straight away. I think I cannot. I need still to let my laptop know that I can execute it. So let me do one additional thing. Open with terminal. Yeah. I don't know if you know that in Mac, in Apple notebooks, you have to manually give a proof that that downloaded package you can execute it. So that's what I just did.
Security.
Yeah, security, very good, right?
Yeah.
So okay, let's try and execute this guy. I think we should be good now, and I think it will fail. npm run compile proton, right? This guy. Bad CPU type executable. Okay, interesting. So okay, I got it. That's my new laptop actually, and
That's not the right version of product.
yeah, it should be having something for new laptop for my new laptop as well. 1 second, I'm exploring here. What can I use instead? Okay, yeah, I downloaded the wrong one. There is one for Arc, or universal binary. Now let's try Arc first. It's 23.4, right? 23, no, it's 23.
Two.
Yeah, download it. Yeah, I'm not showing it. It's in protobuf releases. Maybe I can show it in at least paste the URL. Right, where is the chat? Yeah. Okay. Okay, download it 23.2. Let's see if this would work. Copying it now to the vendor. So now we will see it in our package here. So now it probably, I actually don't know if that would work. It's been working on my previous system.
I have two new laptop.
Yes. Too many different things. Okay. npm run compile proton. Okay, works.
Nice.
Well, works not yet. Not we need to still check it. So it's now the security problem that I told you. I need to do the acceptance of this program. Open. Yeah, it works. It should be working fine. So now I allowed it to be used. Program not found, it's not executable. Okay, so this is a good one. So now it says, okay, I can execute protoc, right? We can actually remove this line from here. Let's see what it will produce. Yeah, it says mixing output directives, right? So it says so where I want to output it. And by default, maybe we can actually see what by default what options do we have by default. Vendor protoc. So we can say that for out file, yeah, descriptor set out or just out maybe. So we can define what we want from it. So it's just a tool that accepts different params based on the installation path. Like in here, it's just default protoc. No additional plugins I have installed so far. And you see there is already supported environments like C++, C#, Java, and so on. So that is no JavaScript by default. And we don't have much time left, right? Let's just
yeah, it's
yeah.
we can finish them.
Yeah, let's try to generate the output, and I think we're good from today. Right. So it has some output by default, right? Rust, Kotlin, and doesn't have JavaScript anymore by default. I think it was it was there, but now you have to install additionally the JavaScript package for that. Maybe I think I don't know. I think I had an impression that you can do it without installing additional JavaScript plugin. But nevertheless, we can install our package, right? We can just install this protoc and GraphQL. Wow, that's amazing, right? npm install. And do I need to install it globally? I think yes, we need to install it globally. Okay, now if I execute this guy, it actually produced something. Oh, that's amazing! Look at that. So what it gave us the error here, and that's because the structure of this plugin, I output some log information, and I think that's where it complains right now. Used to the debug log maybe. Add file, serialize binary, set name. Okay, so it should produce the schema GraphQL. And I think it complains about I think it complains about these parts. So now, yeah, I got actually what happened. So I didn't have to install it globally like that because it's from registry, npm registry, and I won't actually have the development version of it, the developed version, and I can get it from my local, right? So I just need to go to this protoc again, GraphQL, and cd the protoc and GraphQL, and I can say install globally this guy. So it will be the same, and it will be linked into my global mod list. Now I think if I go back and if I run this again, now we're good. And I think it should produce the schema GraphQL file. It doesn't show it changed it because it's the same, I guess. Let's delete it and see if that works. Now it's empty, and now it's produced. Yeah. Yeah, so it's very tiny stuff so far. What it does, it just reads the books proto. Well, here it's hard coded, but we should be actually using the dynamic input, of course. And I use a protocol buffer compiler. So this is official community supported protocol buffer compiler plugin. So I pass it to my I pass my books definition in there, and then I generate the output. And what I do with it, I basically get the output of this protocol buffer load, right? It has some root, and I just serialize this root object to my generated code. So I first code that this is generated, don't edit it, and that's what my definition looks like. So it has a books namespace, right? Let me open this guy quickly. Books proto. It has the package books, right? That's what we see here. It has the book definition. It has a books definition, and it has a books service definition and empty. And what we're gonna do as a next step, maybe next week or somewhere, is we need to traverse this data. We need to generate GraphQL definition for our types, essentially for book, for books, and for empty. And we want to get something like this in the end, right? So we want from this JSON data, we want to define these book types, and then we want to put it into actually the running GraphQL server and be used straight away. So that was the idea. How does it sound to you, Igor?
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds really nice.
All right.
We can do it next one.
Yeah, let's do it next time. It took a little more time than I thought, but yeah, maybe next time I should plan just a code session to to move on forward with implementation. But
I think
yeah.
it was a nice intro, like a theory part. No, it's quite clear.
Thanks, Igor. You're so nice this morning.
Every morning.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks a lot. So I'm diving deeper and deeper into this gRPC GraphQL world. Yeah, so really interesting for me. Yeah, and I think for many of our viewers.
Yeah. Again, share it with your parents and grandparents, your kids and grandkids,
Significant others as well.
significant, yes, significant others. And see you next time.
Yeah, yeah. So usually you meet us on Saturday mornings,
Mm-hmm.
and let's meet there as well. And yeah, have a great weekend, I guess.
Have a
So
good Saturday and Sunday.
see you soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.